All right, we're ready to go ahead and start into the regular meeting. If everyone will stand, put your best leaders in there, follow our pledge.
Thank you again, Lord, Father, for your goodness and your mercy. Father, as we go from one meeting to another, help us and guide us. It's only you can do and you will do, and you have done. And we thank you for what you have done thus far. These blessings and all other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd welcome everyone to the meeting this Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, at 6 p.m. We have a conference line set up. The number there is 1917-900-1022. Access code 32347#. This is not a toll-free number. You may be subject to long-distance charges according to your long-distance plan. When the chairperson opens the meeting for public comment, please follow the below instructions. If you wish to speak, please dial *5. The moderator will unmute your line when your turn to speak and notify you by announcing the last 4 digits of your telephone number. Please announce your name and address. You will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Any person wishing to address the board regarding an agenda item will be given 3 minutes for comment. A commenter may only speak one time for each agenda item. That said, we'll move on to item 3. We'll take a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Commissioner Moody, second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor? Move on to your consent items. Everyone had a chance to go over your consent items. Any questions, discussion? No question or discussion. We'll take a motion to approve the consent items. Motion by Commissioner Dent. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Moody. All in favor? All right, we'll go to our bids and public hearing, item 11. The board to hold a public viewing stakeholder meeting at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible to discuss and receive public input for the Coumty Beach and Steamhatchee boat ramp bypass feasibility study presented by Melanie Cox, grant writer.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Melanie.
As you know, we have received Restore Act Part 3 money to complete a bypass feasibility study for Steamhatchee and Coumty Beach boat ramp. This is a feasibility study only, where it doesn't involve any construction. It is fully grant funded, but it is just a study only. Through the competitive process, Avcon Inc. was selected as the consultant for the project, and they will be doing a brief presentation later to receive public input. We are required by the terms of the grant to have a minimum of 3 stakeholder meetings, one of which will be held in Steamhatchee. We do want to receive as much public input as we can get for this project. And I do want to stress, I know there's been some rumor that we're going to take people's property and eminent domain, and that is absolutely not the case at all. This is for study and study only. So at this time, I will turn it over to Avcon to do their presentation, and hopefully we'll receive some good public input. And I am here on the line if you need any questions answered in reference to the terms of the grant agreement or anything else in reference to the project.
Okay. Thank you, Madam.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is John Collins with Avcon. I know I've met most of you for several years now. We've been honored to be your aviation consultant here at Taylor County since 2007. It's kind of hard to believe it's been that long. But certainly working hard with Luanda and Melody and Jamie and Ward and your whole team with the county. We're actually really excited about this project, the Steenhatchee and Keaton Beach boat ramp feasibility study. We know that this has been a big priority for this county for several years now. And so we're really excited to get started with this. So again, tonight, this is really just kind of opening the doors to get feedback from the county and also residents. I have with me tonight Clint Plesser. He's our Associate Vice President of our Transportation Department. So Clint is going to come up and just really give a high-level overview of what this project includes, walk through some of our thoughts, but really why we're here tonight is to hear your thoughts on what you think are important for this project and also receive input from the community. So with that, Clint.
Thanks, John. And thanks, commissioners, for having us. Thanks to the public for coming. We really appreciate everyone's attendance. As you see up on the screen here, I want to let everyone know that it is an image generated by AI, but none of the engineering will be done by AI. Now that we got that out of the way, we can go down to the next slide. And this is so far we have not put together anything. We want to let the commissioners and the public know that there's no preconceived notions of what should or should not be done here. We're just trying to alleviate the traffic and utilize the grant funds to best serve the county and its residents. What we'd love to do is, after the end of this, is get comments. But first, we'll briefly talk about the project. I'm sure most of the commissioners and the residents fully aware of the project locations. There's only one road in and out of Keaton Beach. So we'll be looking to either create a turnoff area or a completely new bypass. As Melody stated, there will be no eminent domain considered to take anyone's home. And some of our other key concerns will be being responsible to the environment. As you can see in the pictures, and you're fully aware from this area, there's a very sensitive natural wetlands surrounding all the buildings by nature, because they are leading out to the Gulf. So we will be very cognizant of that. And then just find the best solution for the county and its residents. As you see, no work or graphics done so far. We're just collecting data. We do plan to collect traffic counts around the 4th of July weekend as our worst case scenario for traffic in the scalloping season. So we'll be using that as our basis of design for traffic. But other than that, there's really been no decisions made as far as what needs to be done. We'll go to the next slide, and you'll see the Steinhatchee aerial. Again, there's a few more roads in this network, so there might be some different options to consider on moving traffic around. There isn't just the one road in, one road out, but it is the main road that's being very hampered by traffic based to the boat ramp. With that, we'll just open it up for any questions or comments from the commissioners or the public.
Any questions from the board?
Not yet.
I got one thing. There's a business there on the right, just before you get to the intersection down there on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Store, gas station and all that. I've been asked by the owner for us to put that bypass close to his store there if we could, because he don't want everybody bypassing him going around.
That's a great input. What we, and this is something we'll be doing tonight, is we'd like to collect all of these comments. We will be having, like Melody said, several public input meetings that will be presenting ideas. But the more comments we can get, specific comments like that, the more we can get now, the better. So if any of the commissioners, if you've gotten any of those, you can forward them to Melody and she'll provide them to us. If any other commissioners, if you have comments yourself or you have from your constituents, please provide to Melody and bring them on to us. Thank you for that.
I just got a question. I think probably a lot of the questions which was mentioned a little bit probably by Natalie is talking about not taking what property, and what, I mean, the path of the road and the bypass of that location, that's what everybody's going to see. What's the path look like? And what properties are you looking to partner with to make this happen?
It's a blank slate right now. So right now we're just collecting data. We're looking at all the right of way of the ramps. We're collecting that information. We're collecting, where are the wetlands? We're trying to define that so we can identify if there's impacts for that. But there's no bypass limit set right now. It's a blank slate for us to get your input, look at the physical existing conditions, and make recommendations.
Question. Can you tell me exactly what your study will tell us? When you're done, what can we expect?
Yes, that's a great question. So we do know that if we do get an approved study, there is funds for construction as a second phase. We're not authorized, like Melody said, we're not authorized at all for that right now, but there are funds for construction later. So our goal will be to have a project that is acceptable to the community, acceptable to the commissioners, and helps make the traffic better.
Can you give me a little more detail than that?
The detail is going to be in the report. Unfortunately, we don't have those yet. And I'm actually really happy that we don't have those details right now, because that would mean we came in with preconceived notions of what it should be, and we don't have that. We know that there's a traffic issue, and we want to deal with it as best as possible after we look at the data and after we look at all the comments from the commissioners and the public.
Well, you did mention earlier that you'll do a traffic count.
Yes.
So what else are you gonna do?
Okay, all the pieces of it, yes. So we are getting traffic counts surrounding active boat ramps, a few, couple thousand feet away from the boat ramps to see, I think we have at least 5 at each location. We're collecting the local soil data from our geotechnical sub-consultants. We have survey sub-consultants who are collecting all the right-of-way, so we can identify if properties, just because we won't, I forget who you did the eminent domain question, just because we won't recommend taking something to eminent domain, doesn't mean we won't recommend purchasing a property. So it would be identifying property that may be amenable to be purchased. But really we won't know any of those things until we really get into the details of it further on.
Okay, so once you get that traffic count over the July the 4th weekend, so what are you gonna compare those numbers to, or what are you gonna use to say, okay, this is the number, this is the traffic count, and do we really need a bypass here or not? Because remember, it's about 3.5 months out of the year. The rest of the time, we don't really have too much of a problem there, mainly during scallop season. So what are you going to use those numbers with to determine that?
But that'll all be part of a process, because it's a great point that it's not there all the time. What we do try to do is get the worst case scenario, so we know it's not going to be much worse than this. So we grab that, and then we can have those conversations of what are we doing? Is it appropriate to do this level of fix for something that happens 3 months out of the year? And now that'll be the input we get from all the commissioners and all the public based on our recommendations. But we know that it's an issue. We know that the traffic is tough in that area. And so our recommendations will be measured based on that. And they'll also allow you to give your input and the rest of the public and commissioners as well.
And so I guess what I'm looking for too, number one, is this something we really need to do? Or would there be something else that those funds would be better used for? For instance, another entrance, another boat ramp somewhere. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
That's not inside of the scope that we've been identified for. We're going to identify to see what's going on with the traffic and make recommendations based on what we're seeing with that traffic to alleviate it.
Mr. Chairperson, if I could ask, so is it even a potential that one of the recommendations would be no build? Is that what
That's
you're-
always a
Okay.
potential.
So that's a potential, is that, it may be, we don't, there's a no build option.
That's right.
Or because it's seasonal, there's another lane or something like that, okay.
That's right.
Then my next question is, after this meeting, I'm sure there will be some members of the public who would like to discuss their properties as potential. If you can just give us contact information, John, if y'all will
Absolutely.
send that to me,
Yes.
that's something that we can forward to y'all. Because there may be people in the public who, have their own ideas or live, have property nearby that would like to be considered. Also, I know there's going to be a question at Keaton Beach about some county-owned property. If that is, and that's something that was purchased with an SCT grant, and I know that has been zoned conservation. Is there a process, if that is something that's even a potential, that y'all could flesh out for us? If there's any potential at all to utilize the property that's already owned by the county?
So the question is zoned conservation right now, but are there options on potentially developing that parcel?
Yes.
Yeah, we'd be happy to look into that. We reach out to the agencies and find out what options we have.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what I'm thinking, as far as Commissioner Spiegel, as far as kind of what we are going to do, what I'm envisioning is we'll have a few different like alternate road layouts for each of these locations. One of them might be a relatively small impact, one of them might be a larger impact. And we could sit down and say, look, there's different ways we can approach this. How do you feel about something smaller versus something larger? Here's the construction differences. Here's the impact potentially on property. Again, we don't know exactly what the options are right now. That's kind of what we're going to work through. But I think our goal is to flesh out all of the options that we have available to us. What do you feel comfortable with? How would you like to, what paths should we be looking at to further investigate different options?
In addition to the no build.
That's correct. That's correct.
And both of them, they said it very well. The no build is always a baseline criteria that we as part of these feasibility studies that we compare everything to. So the no build will be compared to all the different criteria that we can compare the solutions to as well.
Sure.
This is Melody. Can I make a comment, Sue? Yes, I just want to let y'all know that's why we're having a series of stakeholder meetings, because as they start this process and come up with ideas, we will come back to the board and bring, their ideas or their findings so far, so that it could be, down the road, you just don't want to do anything that they recommend. That's why we're doing it this way, so that you're involved in every aspect of the process, so that when we get to the end, it is something that the board fully supports. And I do want to let you know that we have sufficient funding set aside in Pot 3 funding if you do want to move forward with this. However, it is not committed to this process. So once we get into this, if you see it is a no build or you don't want to move forward, we have funding where we can redirect it to, say, if you want another boat ramp or whatever project you want, we do have funding available that is not yet committed to anything specific.
Go ahead. Hey, I don't want to speak for Melody or the board, but you can choose one or the other as well. If it makes sense for one spot and it doesn't make sense for the other spot, it's really up to you. And the only one big thing I had after is please send your comments in like that. Those little comments of a property owner has a store, they're concerned about losing business. This might seem small, but we need to put them all together, because there might be another property owner that the opposite's true for them. And the good for this one's bad for the other, but we need to be able to have all those comments together so we can tell the whole story and tell each individual person why this is moving forward or not. And again, that's not up to us to make those decisions. We're just making recommendations for consideration.
Any other questions?
I'd like to say one thing about it. It is them children running back and forth across that road from the park to the boat ramp area when they get ready to go fishing. It's a wonder somebody hadn't got run over. And that, getting a bypass is gonna be a blessing for the children coming and going out there, I can tell you. Because I've seen them run across that road and they ain't got a, boat paddle or a life preserver or a bucket. They ready to scald. They ready to go scald, and I'm looking at the traffic. So it'll be a blessing to get a bypass there.
Just to piggyback off of that, though, don't we still have the sheriff's department parked right there at all times? We still, LaWanda, we still are contracted for that service. Okay, and so just to be clear, you're going to present us with 2 feasibility studies, one for Keaton and one for Steinhatchee.
It will come as one report, but it'll be separate. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Okay, you said 3 months is all we talking about, that they were real busy. Do we want it to grow, or we want it to stay at 3 months? Do we want anything we can do to make 6 months? Do a 9th month, a 9 months.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying, Commissioner.
Okay, you said 3 months is about busy to be.
Yeah, that's when we have the most traffic ability.
Okay. Is there anything we can do with the bypass to make it a 9 month or 6 months busy?
I mean, it is what it is.
I don't know that it would be anything, I mean, for me, I mean, I'd have to just see the results to, I mean, I'd have more questions, because for me, I mean, when I go to the beach, I'm not in no hurry, so I mean, I don't mind driving down there and looking at people, and I like to look at people. And such as that, I mean, as far as the bypass for me, I mean, long-term wise, I mean, in 30, 40 years, is that gonna, is it something that's gonna be able to get people moving quicker to work, such as that? I mean, is that gonna move people to, the businesses that develop in these areas, is gonna move people through quicker and such, but, you know, as far as bypassing the businesses that are there and the boat ramps and the actual beaches that we already have, I mean, I'm not sure how.
One other benefit, we'd say, and again, we're more presenting the facts for you guys to make your decisions on. There are other benefits outside of that, like a emergency response time, that also be big considerations. But really, I would just ask for you to send in your comments now. I mean, comments about what you just said. Put that in email and send it to us. I'm not sure, because we can address that in the report. We can say that there are concerns of the cost benefit, analysis. Is it a cost, a benefit for the whole year? But like, again, the more comments we get now, great. And then after we present, let us know how you feel about that. And like Melody said, this could move no further, or you could have a completely separate bypass that moves traffic away. It just depends on what the public and the commission wants.
I don't hear from the public.
Any other questions from anyone on the board? All right. Well,
Chair back.
We'll open I'm opening up to the public, so we're opening up to the public, and,
Thanks for your time.
any questions?
So am I also understanding that you're not only just looking at moving the traffic, you might add, oh, I guess, well,
Yeah, so everyone can hear you.
okay, sorry about that. My name is Michelle Curtis, and the question I had was, it sounds like this is not just about moving the traffic by adding a new road. It could potentially be adding a new boat ramp to diffuse the traffic a little bit. Is that what I'm hearing as well?
I think what maybe Commissioner Fiegel, it might have, or even, the county administrator alluded to was not, if we don't find it feasible for a bypass, to maybe the money can be used for another boat ramp.
Okay.
To get people to the water, to, maybe clear up some of that congestion down there to send them to another, ramp.
So that could be part of this, really.
Yeah, in
As
other
far as
words,
recommendations.
what's the best option for us? Is it to potentially have a bypass for 3 months of heavy traffic? Or to use that funding to put in another boat ramp, which is very much needed? And that in itself might alleviate some of the traffic, just by having another option. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I guess the thing I'm thinking is we do have other access points, but they need dredging. So is there money available for dredging if or is it the kind of thing that's totally out of question to dredge anything more than we already have? Do we have any kind of direction from the government on that?
I think there are, I know the Keep Beach and Keep Beach and Tehachapi is in the process of, for the to be dredged. And we've also, you got Cedar Island, Dickens Island, and we've also, with the acquisition of Spring Warrior, we've got that in the plans for dredging as well.
And then I guess I'm looking at other places like Holmes Creek, and other places that we actually have access points. If they were dredged, you could have,
The issue would be ownership.
yeah, and then there's probably private places as well.
Yes.
But, so, okay, that was my question. Thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public? Anyone on the line? Anything else from the board? You guys got anything else?
Just one quick comment. I know for me, I'm much more of a visual person. So it helps me always to look like, if I can see options, sometimes I can have, a lot more input on something. So, obviously, we're gonna put together some options and some ideas on what it could look like. And then, like Clint mentioned, we'll have another public meeting where we can kind of go through these, get input, pros and cons of each of these options before we move forward with the next step of this.
When are you looking to start this study, and when are you looking to have a complete study completed?
Yeah, so we've already started, but just in the data collection area. Our next big thing is the July 4th counts, but the research into the wetlands and the environment and the geotech and the right-of-way, is already underway. Like I said, let's get the count set and get with Melody, and we'll get a whole schedule out for the whole team. But I think 365 was our contract, and we got kicked off about a month ago. So it has to be done by this time next year. It'll be a month done. But we'll get you a more detailed schedule for Melody shortly.
It's just a simple question, who pays them?
That would be
From the grant?
grant funds.
But no.
And how much is this gonna cost us?
I see 35.
No, that's just for Balmoral, through the Gulf Consortium.
It's around 300. I don't recall exactly. It was around 300.
$350-some thousand.
For the study, how much
For the
is
study?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
350.
And we can't find a better way to spend that money?
And that's been approved. I mean, we've gone through the grant application process, and we did have a third party to, validate or verify the charges as being appropriate. And that's part of the process. It was approved by, the Gulf Consortium and Treasury. So it's all been pre-approved.
I'm not saying it's not appropriate, I'm just saying that we lost 154 homes at the beach. The beach is devastated from what it was a couple of years ago. So you said it's gonna be different, because you don't have 154 houses. Pam's not going to Scotland this year because her house is going. I'm not going to because my house is going. I'm just saying, can't we find a better way to spend that kind of money and do some studies somewhere else and look at something else we can do for Keaton Beach? Traffic may not be as big a problem because you just don't have as many people in it. And it's a real short period. It's not even 3 months. Y'all said 3 months, but it's a lot closer than that because school starts in August, and when school starts back late July this year, then the whole thing's over with. So it's really not 3 months, it's more like 2 months.
Mr. Chairperson, I was thinking about that as well, Randy, and I think maybe what we can also offer to them is some of the scallop counts that we can get from Victor for previous years, in case we're off this year a little bit, would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More data is better.
Right, so there is data that's been collected at Keaton Beach over the years, that IFAS has helped us with, and Victor Blanco, where the numbers may be more close to what it normally
I'm
is.
sure we could get into a lot of things. We probably should have put a little more effort into getting the ramps ready for them to use, but we didn't, and now here we are in the middle of scholarship season, or already started. We don't have a boat ramp area to work from. Not gonna just kick it around, but I just think there's a lot of ways to spend the money, especially for $350,000 just for a study, a piece of paper that tells you you need to do something you may or may not need in 20, 30 years. Most of those lands are wetlands. Mr. Moody, that gas station talking about there, according to your county development's not gonna be built back. If you guys don't take some effort and put some of that back, that building won't go back. So there's no need to worry about where that goes. If he don't move that gas station on somewhere that's more feasible, he won't be building that building back.
He's not gonna be able to build it back, but he's got it going. He got his business going, he's not.
We're not quite sure how that's gonna work out either. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna work out, but I'll leave that with you and Terry to deal with that.
I just have one question, really, on, this money, this $300,000+, doing this study, I mean, if it's not gonna work, something we don't wanna do, I mean, looking at a boat ramp study, do we got to start all over again and go find money to do a boat ramp study? I mean,
You have to amend the process.
if the money's spent, and then we gotta go find more, go beg for more money to do a boat ramp study and try to get a boat ramp, location.
Well, I think that, I mean, you have to remember with this pot three funds, you have to submit a separate grant application every time you want to change your focus, but we have a large amount of that is free, so, yes, to answer your question, yes, we couldn't just change midstream and decide to do something different. We would have to amend our step and start, it's about a 2-year process to go through that. By the time you amend the plan, and then you submit a grant application for those funds. Unfortunately, that's the way the Restore Act funds work.
Mr. Chairman, I guess that I'm just, you can probably tell by my questions, I'm a little bit concerned. $350,000 is a lot of money for a feasibility study that very well could come back with a no build. So we're spending $350,000 to say, you don't need this. And then when you talk about the scholar count, I don't know how much that really plays into it, because, has it kept people, Lawanda, from coming in the past? Do we have any kind of statistics that says when the scholar count was not as good, or we didn't have as many people? Do we have anything to go on with that?
Well, when I refer to the scholar count, that's just strictly a way to capture activity at the boat ramps. I don't know, I'm sure there's a way to relate it to, if the scouts were not good, then as many people didn't come. I was just trying to offer a way to provide additional numbers.
But my question is, do we have any kind of data from previous years when the scallop counts were low that says, okay, about this many people did not come because of that information? Or are we just thinking that maybe?
I can check. I
But you don't know of any right now. And who would probably have that?
Probably Victor. I mean, and I don't know that you can tie the two together. Go ahead, Melody.
The boat ramp
We may be able to obtain data from FWC and the Florida Boating Improvement Program. We may be able to obtain some data from FWC in reference to that too. And I just wanted, to remind everyone, this feasibility study was due upon direction of the board. So, I mean, that's why we are pursuing it and went through the grant application process, because this was something maybe not each board member are on right now, but this was a board-driven project.
It was, Melanie, and I was here during that time. And, when we found out, oh, we've got this much money to spend, and it has to be spent at the coast, and we were trying to decide, well, what are we going to spend all this money on? And so one of the things that we did discuss, and at that time, well, let me back up. We were looking at more boat ramps, and we looked at quite a few. And I know that one location was at Hagen's Cove, and our engineer did a big study on that but there were a lot of things in the way. I think particularly with permitting, and I don't know how that would be now. But so this was just one of the ways that we thought, how can we spend the money? But since that time, we've had a lot of houses that are wiped out down there. So we don't have as many rentals this year as we've had previously. So we don't know how that's going to affect us, if it's going to be a negative impact. I kind of think it is, because the rental business was pretty robust during scallop season. So there's a lot of factors, I think, to consider. But again, I have a little reservation of spending $350,000 of this money for
Mr.
a
Chair,
feasibility study.
right, and if I can, if I'm not, somebody help me remember, if I'm not mistaken, maybe during that time period, there were some concerns, maybe also from the residents of both areas, because, traffic was so cumbersome and so difficult. And I don't disagree that, especially at the beaches, that's not a problem right now, unfortunately. But I think it's just the timing of the grant application and the storms and the fact that this has come after, we've had such devastation.
Yeah, we did have, when we had quite a few more citizens down here.
Right, you're not,
They did
that's
express
correct.
concerns, but then, since that time, we've hired the sheriff's department. And in the beginning, we did not have the sheriff's department down there to help with traffic and parking on the side of the road and blocking traffic. So I think that with their presence there, it has helped a lot in terms of moving traffic.
Especially at the beaches. Now, I don't know about Steenhatchee and, if that,
Just,
is it still, right?
parking is not just the issue, it's get through the ramp so that you can get parked. So my input is, it is a costly study, but just as Mr. Moody talked about the safety factor, you can't put a price tag on it.
That's exactly right.
There, so my thing is, it's $300,000+. But it gives an option. We just heard from our folks with economic development, and I don't disagree with Commissioner Moody or Commissioner Dents, that there could be the potential for expansion. If we don't have this kind of study and the option to move forward for the future, then we're just continuing to seek a consideration to use these funds somewhere else and all the laborious time that it takes to go on that and the opportunity lost in the process. So I'm not glad about the reductions, and I'm really not glad that the cost is that high. But I am exceptionally interested to get the information so that we can make the best decision that we can. If that means that we get information that says don't build it, then we don't build it.
In Steenhatchee, you have people blocking the marina parking areas, you have them getting in arguments in the parking lot because they park back behind somebody that's ready to go, and Steenhatchee really needs a bypass. I mean, that's a no-brainer down there.
Yes.
I've been there when you couldn't even get down that road for 30 minutes. And I mean, you'd have to wait in line 30 minutes just to get down the main road.
I don't disagree with that about Steenhatchee, and I should have been clearer, when I was starting to talk. I was mainly talking of the Keaton Beach area, but I think you're correct, in Steenhatchee, absolutely something needs to be done there. And maybe Keaton Beach, I don't know, I'm just questioning, that's all.
I do remember there was.
And I want to backtrack on something that was said a few minutes ago on if we say, you find out you don't want to do a bypass and you do want to do a boat ramp study, a study to find out where a boat ramp would work. We would not have to amend the SCP because boater access is already in our SCP. However, we would have to do an entirely new grant application. But we would save a little bit of time on not having to amend the SCP. But you're looking at, y'all know by now how slow Treasury is. If you decide to pursue a boat ramp or, a boating facility location, you're looking at a year from the time of submitting the grant application. But that is a possibility. And I do want to remind everyone, I don't think any of you all were commissioners then except Commissioner Moody. We already completed a study on the site known as Woods that we're getting ready to do the Steenhatchee Coastal Park project on. We already have studies completed on that particular site with the Florida Boating Improvement Grant, and it is not feasible to have a boat ramp there. And, since that is a larger parcel, just so y'all know, that is not a doable location.
Where's that again,
So Steenhatchee Coastal Park site we call Woods. We received Florida Boating Improvement grants on that because since it was a larger parcel, but it was not a doable parcel because of the amount of dredging it would require. And due to the area, it would require, continuous flushing of the basin. And FDIC and SWC determined that site would not work.
Okay.
So just to let you know on that, since we have that project coming up too.
Maybe you got 10 active people wanting to speak up, think about that.
Yeah. Go ahead, come on.
I just wanted to say that scallop season is our largest stream in revenue, but we have many, many fishing tournaments throughout the year. They're increasing. We've got Sea Hag Marina, we've got the boat ramp, we've got Dead Man's Bay, and we've got Roy's Restaurant, Krabby Dad's across the way. So the traffic is not just during scallop season, if we decide to go through it.
Anyone else from the public?
Yeah, Rhonda Bardsley with Steenhatchee. My question isn't, does this study need to be done, but it's the timing of it. Our roads are already messed up. We're pretty sure our rates or our season's gonna be a lot slower this year. And I just would really question whether this is a good time for this, or should we wait and see what next year brings?
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I have to agree with her. You're gonna have a whole lot less traffic. This study would have been best done last year, before all the damage that we have. We're gonna spend money on a study that's not gonna be 100% accurate, or we could take the money and put it on something tangible, like a boat ramp.
That's not the way this funding
You
works.
can't do it that way. Well, I just think this study's, it's not a good idea this time of year now.
I don't know how accurate of a reading you would get even in, I mean, when everyone's lost their homes down there, so I don't know. how long
That's it.
I don't know how long it take people to come back. I don't know, I would say next year is gonna be the right
Nope.
time to do it.
Last year would have been the time.
Question might be if they're gonna come back.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, we will close the public hearing and move on to the next item. Get item 12. Want to hold a public hearing at 6:05 PM or sooner after it's possible to consider adoption of a resolution to abandon a 30-foot right-of-way alley located in block 23 of the Steenhatchee subdivision, agenda by Terry McKeever.
The planning board voted to do this, so.
No, this is road closure, right? This is item number 12. Terry, this is for, the one for Eric and Michelle Griffith.
I got it.
Okay.
We want me to tell you about it. I think it's,
We said come to you, as something, request come to you about abandoning the right of way, maybe. Give us information on it. And the pros, cons, or.
I think it's a good idea for sure. Like I said, we had all talked about it.
Mr. Chairperson, and this was properly noticed, the submission, application was submitted, it was properly noticed, letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, and we're at the point of public hearing.
We have a resolution on the table, so we want to read the resolution by title only.
I move.
Got a motion by Commissioner Fiegel, second by Commissioner Dick, all in favor?
Aye.
This
Resolution does not have a title, but it says, and it won't take too long to read, I think it's important when you have a abandonment or a closing of a road, that everyone understands exactly where it is, and is there a purpose to do that? And also, when you do this, of course, if there's a vote on it, it needs to be a roll call vote. With that in mind, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to read it real quick, and if you can hear me or can't hear me, let me know. because I'm turning to y'all now also, because it is a public hearing. And this hasn't been passed, it's just what they may pass. Be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Taylor County, Florida, one, that pursuant to the notice of proceeding for closing of streets duly published according to law, proof of publication of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, a hearing was duly held at 6:05 p.m., it's a little bit later than 6:05, on the 17th day of June, AD 2025, to consider and determine whether or not the county would vacate, abandon, discontinue, and close certain roads in Taylor County, Florida, more particularly described in the proof of publication attached hereto. At the time and place set for said hearing, all persons interested were given the opportunity to be heard. The Board of County Commissioners of Taylor County, Florida, determined that the proposed action vacating, abandoning, discontinuing, and closing certain roads herein more particularly described will not deprive any person of a reasonable means of ingress and egress to his premises or her premises, and will not materially interfere with the county's road system. Two, that the certain roads herein described be, and hereby vacated, abandoned, and discontinued. The Board of County Commissioners hereby renounces and disclaims any right, excuse me, in the county and public here and there by any land or interest therein contained in this certain roads in Taylor County, Florida, more particularly described. Description, a parcel of land in section 25, township 9 south, range 9 east, and being that part of Fletcher Lane southeast, lying between lots 4 and 5 of block 23 of the Steenhatchee subdivision, as per the map or plat thereof, recording in plat book 1, pages 26 and 27 of the public roads of Taylor County, Florida, and more particularly described as follows: being at the southeast corner of lot 4 of block 23, Steenhatchee subdivision, as per the map or plat thereof, recorded in plat book 1, pages 26 and 27 of the public records of Taylor County, Florida, and runs south 88 degrees, 16 minutes, 20 seconds west along the south boundary line of said lot 4, a distance of 199.46 feet to the southwest corner of said lot 4. Thence runs south 0 degrees, 28 minutes, 37 seconds east, a distance of 30 feet to the north boundary line of lot 5 of block 23. Thence run along the north boundary line of lot 5, north 88 degrees, 21 minutes, 57 seconds east, a distance of 199.28 feet to the northeast corner of said lot 5 and the west right-of-way of 15th Street, southeast, thence run north 1 degrees, 07 minutes, 56 seconds west along the right-of-way, a distance of 30 feet to the point of beginning, containing 0.14 acre, more or less. 3, this resolution shall take effect when the original hereof, together with a copy of the proof of publication of the adopted resolution, has been filed with the clerk of the circuit court for recording in the public records of Taylor County, Florida. And if they pass it, it would be duly adopted in regular session this 17th day of June, 2025.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna ask the next one anyway, so I'm always just saying.
So what you do is you ask for public comment.
Go ahead. Did you have something, Mr. Gregory?
Hold on, I've got some questions for you. Have you been down there and looked at this?
Honestly, no, ma'am.
Okay. So how are you certain then that this is the right thing to do?
Well, I talked it over with, when Bobby was here, we talked it over, Kenneth, the engineer. They were more schooled in this than I
Do you
was.
know if Bobby ever looked at it?
I'm certain he did.
Did it, LaWanda?
Well, I hate to confirm yes or no, but this was something, I feel pretty certain he did. He was familiar with the area, and we also have, the obvious maps of the area.
Okay, so is there any way that you can foresee in the future that the county would have any kind of need for this right of way, any use for it whatsoever.
I don't think so, but I have not been down there, so I don't want to say absolutely not.
Ma'am, I've looked
I
at
was
it.
thinking until he has been down there and looked at it himself,
I looked at it.
that,
There's a water hole at the end of it. It just turned into a little ball down at the end of it.
It also gives parking, about 9 parking spots for the new pharmacy that got destroyed.
That's right.
That's the biggest thing right now is there's no parking. And what he wants to do, the new owner CJ, what he wants to do is he wants to take the fence down in between the Dollar Tree, Dollar General and close that section off so people can walk through and get to the insurance company that's there, that's supporting the community, and also the new pharmacy that we've let go in there for the last year.
It looked like to me it's needed on both sides.
Yes, sir. And basically, there's been trees there growing there for 30 years. There's no utilities. The actual utility department wrote a letter, along with Kenneth did as well. They've been down and looked at it. There's nothing there. And it's
so
been
it's a
there.
need for the public.
Yes, ma'am. It's
to
helping the-
use it, and it's
yes,
not
ma'am.
that we're gonna, sell it to some other landowners, it's
No,
just
ma'am.
gonna be opened up for the public to use.
Public
I'm fine
input.
with it then.
There's also 2 businesses there.
2 businesses, actually 3 with the Dollar Tree, Dollar General, and then the insurance company. They all got devastated. The insurance company moved into the building when they got devastated, and we let CJ Patel, the pharmacy who handles everybody there in our town. So basically, it's brought a lot to the town to be able to have this. So parking's been an issue. So that would probably give about 8 or 9 parking spaces at 9 feet wide by 18 foot for DOT specs. And it would give people the opportunity to be able to get in and get out. There's a lot of older people, obviously, and parking is an issue. And there's been issues with people being able to get in and out the right way without having any accidents.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Well, we got any other comment from the public? We got any other public comment? Come on, Michelle.
My question is, it sounds like this is public property that now is going to be used by some businesses or something like that. And so I wonder if that should be appraised and it be purchased. No?
Let me answer your question.
Okay.
Okay. When you close or abandon a road, it goes to the adjacent landowners, okay? It's not sold, it goes to the adjacent owners. And what I was going to say before Ms. Curtis talked was that if there is anyone that is an adjacent landowner that has an objection to this, then they should, that's why you have a public hearing. Generally speaking, in the years that I've been a county attorney, if there is adjacent landowner that comes in and objects to the closing of the road, the board really seriously considers that when determining whether you're going to grant the resolution or not.
The board actually has a letter from the adjacent landowner.
I know that, I saw it, and it's in the packet, sir, yes, sir. But I wanted everybody to understand that that's how these things do. And I can remember many, many years ago, there was a very similar one. Some of y'all weren't even born when this happened. Where a portion of a road was closed, you know, and we had a bunch of ripping and snorting. Oh, you can't close a portion. Oh, you could close a portion. But if you do have a specific description, and that's what I read, it was a specific description of this property. And did you hear at the end of it how much it's being closed?
Like an acre.
200 feet.
It was 0.14 acre.
Tax roll as well.
Per acre. I mean, it's not a whole lot of property.
And it goes on the tax roll, so it would be taxed on the
Well,
spot.
I wasn't gonna say that. What I was gonna say that it's not a whole lot of property.
It's not, it's a very small
Because-
piece, enough for about 9 parking spots.
Yeah, in Steenhatchee, as we all know, the subdivision was done a long, long time ago, and it's caused some aggravation to people over the years. And there are, I used to call them pig trails.
They're not even a roadside, they're just little alleyways.
And this is not the first time this has come before the Board of County Commissioners over the 35 years I've been your attorney.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone on the line, Mark?
No, sir.
We will close the public hearing. We do have
You need a motion one way or the other.
we have a motion by Commissioner Fiegel already to adopt the resolution, and then we have a second by Commissioner Dent. Is that right?
Roll call.
Mr. Roll call?
Yeah.
Commissioner Moody? Commissioner Moody?
For.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner English?
Yes.
Commissioner Dents?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Fegel.
Yes. Now I have a question. Since we're gonna close that right of way, and it's gonna be used for public use, now, what about any kind of liability or, Conrad, should we be concerned about that?
No, if you close it, you're abandoning it. It's not county property any longer.
Giving it away. Giving it away.
That's what the statute reads, abandonment, closed. In other words, it inures to the adjacent property owner. And we give them a county deed.
What each landowner will do is end up with half acre more on their property, on their tax roll, and the other one will end up with half acre on the tax roll.
Not a half acre.
You said a half acre. I thought 1,400 of acres.
Very small piece of property, y'all.
Yeah.
But. All right. Anyone? All right, we'll go on to the next item. Item 13, the board will hold a public hearing at 6:10 p.m. or sooner after as possible concerning the proposed update to the comprehensive plan based upon an evaluation pursuant to section 163.3191 Florida statutes.
That's what I was going to say. The planning board met on this, and they had quite a few issues on floating solar panels in the retention ponds. They didn't feel that it was a good thing to have in residential or medium density. They did think it was an okay idea for industrial, so they voted industrial only. The rest of the comprehensive plan passed as written.
Are there any parts of this that the way it's written now that they did? Is there any part, the way it's written up now, is there parts in here that they did deny?
No, that was it. The only things they denied was everything except for industrial.
So, Mr. Chairperson, there actually is, I found out about that after we had prepared the agenda item. So I reached out to the Regional Planning Council. They sent me an updated resolution to just have the planning board sign that indicated their wishes. And there is a different ordinance that's in your packet, and you should all have a copy of that. And this is just the first reading of the ordinance, but we did want to let you know that the resolution was updated to indicate the wishes of the planning board, the recommendation of the planning board, that the floating solar panels?
Yes.
Okay, be restricted to only the industrial zoning.
Retention pond.
Right.
That's what they're going to put in the retention pond.
We'll go up to the public. Voting 5:44. Is there anyone from the public? Has any comments on this item? Anyone from the public? Anyone online? Okay. Close the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Anything from the board? Any questions from the board?
You gotta have a first reading of the ordinance before you close the hearing. Before you close. And of course, this is an ordinance. You make a motion to read it by title, or you move that?
I don't have it in reading ordinance. We have a motion to read the ordinance by title only. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is on page 544 of your agenda. So look at the bottom right-hand corner, I want to make sure that we're reading the right one, since you said there were two. Okay, it's right, 544?
It's the same, yes, it's the same number.
Okay, all right. Here we go. An ordinance of Taylor County, Florida, amending the Taylor County Comprehensive Plan relating to an amendment to the text, future land use plan map series, and the future land use plan map of the Taylor County Comprehensive Plan pursuant to an application CPA 25-02 by the Board of County Commissioners under the amended procedures established in section 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes as amended, providing for amending the text, future land use plan map series, and the future land use plan map of the comprehensive plan based upon an evaluation completed by the county to reflect changes in state requirements pursuant to section 163.3191 Florida statutes as amended, providing severability, repealing all ordinance in conflicts, providing an effective date. Then you ask for comment.
Well, we have, had the first reading, and we've already had public comment, we'll open it up again. Any more comments from the public on this?
Thanks, sir.
Go ahead.
Once you close the public hearing, I do want to bring it to the board's attention that we'll need your signed, that to the Regional Planning Council, and that is for review by state agencies, for any comments, and then this will come back to the board in August for a vote.
That's really passive.
Yes.
No one else from the public, we'll close the public hearing. Anything else we vote on at this time?
You make a motion to pass on first reading, that's not final, you understand? If you look at the bottom, page 545.
I'm
We have a motion to pass on first reading, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Roll call, yes, do a roll call.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiegel,
Yes.
Commissioner English,
Yes.
Commissioner Dents.
Okay, there will be, as I read through this, there'll be, the duly, regular session would be in August.
Yes, sir.
Because you send this to the state, they look at it, and then it comes back. It's a lot different from your regular ordinance doings, if you understand what I'm saying. That's why I'm talking too much, but I want y'all to understand. That's all.
All right, we'll move on to item 14, the board to hold a public hearing at 6:15 or soon thereafter, as possible, to consider adoption of a resolution to abandon a portion of a 20-foot right-of-way located in block 61 of the Steenhatchee subdivision, which is by Terry McKeever, building official.
Again, I did not go out there. This was handled by Ken and Bobby, so I can't attest to any of it.
Okay, so, we do have a resolution on the table, so we'll put that in motion to read the resolution.
I move.
Motion by Commissioner Dent, second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor?
Be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Taylor County, Florida, one, that pursuant to the notice of proceeding for closing of streets duly published according to law, proof of publication of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof, a hearing was duly held at 6:15 p.m. on the 17th day of June AD 2025 to consider and determine whether or not the county would vacate, abandon, discontinue, and close certain roads in Taylor County, Florida, more particularly described in the proof of publication attached hereto. At the time and place for said hearing, all persons interested were given the opportunity to be heard. The Board of County Commissioners of Taylor County, Florida determined that the proposed action of vacating, abandoning, discontinuing, and closing certain roads herein more particularly described will not deprive any person of a reasonable means of ingress and egress to his premises and will not materially interfere with the county's road system. Two, that the certain roads herein described being hereby vacated, abandoned, and discontinued, and the Board of County Commissioners hereby renounces and disclaims any right of the county and public in and to any land or interest therein contained in the certain roads in Taylor County, Florida, more particularly described as description, portion of 8th Street East Alley to be closed. A portion of an existing public alley in section 25, township 9 South, range 9 East, and located at block 61 as shown on the plat of the town of Steinhatchee, plat book 1, page 26, on record in the office of the clerk of the circuit court of Taylor County, Florida, and more particularly described as follows. Commence at the northeast corner of block 61 of the town of Steinhatchee, a plat thereof being on record in plat book 1, page 26 in the public records of Taylor County, Florida, thence run in a southerly direction along the easterly boundary of said block 61, 200 feet to the intersection of the northerly boundary of public alleyway and the westerly right-of-way of 8th Street East for a point of beginning. Thence continues a southerly direction along said westerly right-of-way 20 feet, thence run westerly along the southerly boundary of said public alleyway 250 feet to the northwest corner of lot 13, thence run northerly 20 feet to the southwest corner of lot 4, thence run easterly along the northerly boundary of the public alleyway 250 feet back to the point of beginning, containing 0.11 acres, more or less. 3, this resolution shall take effect when the original hereof, together with a copy of the proof of publication of the adopted resolution, has been filed with the clerk of the circuit court for recording in the public records of Taylor County, Florida, duly adopted in regular session this 17th day of June 2025. Usually the petitioner tells us something about it, and then if anybody has any comments to be made, of course, y'all are supposed to listen to them and make a decision.
All right, we'll open it up to the public. Get any comments from the public on this item?
Jamie? Jim Zerbrick from Steinhatchee. My comment is really for the building director. I think that we should have come up, no fault, but, maybe it's caught you blindsided, but we should have come more with some visual so that the public could actually see a visual of the location.
Next time we will, but like I said, I wasn't involved in that one.
Don't take it personal, although it sounds personal.
Jim, there's a map in the packet. Right, but it's, the packet's online, and within the packet, there is a map that shows the areas.
I'm just used to, we had previously for so many things, put it up on the visual, right? So
We can pull up the map if
if anybody else wants to, I'm indifferent about that alleyway.
Anyone else from the public? Do you have something, sir?
No, I'm the one petitioning. You
I'm sorry?
I'm the one petitioning.
Okay, the petitioner. You're the petitioner, right?
Yes. Pearson.
Yeah, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Anyone else from the public?
It'll help you to have it closed on, or you on it.
Yes, I've owned the property for quite a number of years, both sides of the alleyway. So this is my second time trying to achieve this. So it affects no one but this one.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone on the line?
No, sir.
Any comments from the board?
There was a time, I was just sitting here thinking back, and Conrad, you can maybe help me with this. And there was a time when we said that we were not gonna give any more county property away, that we would sell it to adjoining property owners. Remember that?
I do. And also, there was a time when this was a long time ago, if there was any objection to any closure, the board at that particular point in time would not close. Usually, you know, again, this is a very little piece of property. You know, it's smaller than the other one. 0.0, you know, 11/100ths of an acre this is what this is. There's only, if I understand Mr. Pearson, he's the only affected landowner. Now, I don't have a ball in it. I'm just explaining what before y'all as a practical matter.
It's got one more street we don't have to maintain enough to.
Have we been maintaining that?
I doubt it, it's an alleyway.
It's alleyway, but it's open, on there.
You see it on the screen there, what it looks like, so.
Mr. Pearson, it's only the section between those two parcels that you own, correct? Are those your two parcels?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so it would only be what's between those two. So it's about 20 feet, right? So it's only the eastern 250-foot portion.
Yes.
So,
It's in the
right.
bond.
So is it 20 feet wide or 20 feet long? How long is it?
250 feet.
It's the eastern 250-foot portion, so it's 20 feet wide.
About 250.
Yes, ma'am. So it's 0.11 acres, 0.11.
Any comments from the board? No other comments, so take a motion to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion to adopt it.
Yes. Got a motion?
Got a motion, we have a second. Second by Commissioner.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman? Commissioner English?
Yes.
Commissioner Dents?
Yes.
And Commissioner Fegel?
Yes.
All right. Give it the, move on to the next item, under public request, item 15. 1,000 Friends of Florida presentation to relay the findings of the Agriculture 2040 project, given by Ken Dickens, policy and planning director, 1,000 Friends of Florida.
You can just let us know what we think of the maps.
Thank you, good evening. Kim Deacon, 1,000 Friends of Florida, and I won't keep you long, but I did want to thank you for letting me speak to you today, and then really just give you an update of some work that we've been doing. We came to the county in August of last year, right between Hurricane Debby, before Hurricane Helene, so in a lot of a different state when we were speaking to citizens in August of last year. But just a little bit of information about who we are. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that was founded in 1986 by Dr. John DeGrove, who is known as the father of tanning and smart growth, and Nathaniel Reed, who was a Floridian who served as the assistant or the deputy secretary of the Interior. And he was a conservationist who oversaw projects like the Everglades National Park, the Endangered Species Act, and the Clean Water Act. So those are the ethics and the legacy that we try to uphold in the work that we do. We do this through through a lot of different ways, but one of them being tracking legislation. We have legislation that is involved with growth management and protecting home rule, water resources, land conservation, land issues, and transportation. So as part of that, we testify in front of the legislature. We work with lawmakers to try to protect home rule and local governments and advocate for smart growth type policies. We hold 3 different webinars throughout the legislative session. So one before, when bills are kind of filtering in, one during the middle of the session to let people know what's happening in Tallahassee, and then one at the end to let people know what has passed and what has not passed. We also do outreach like this with not only the legislative issues, but also planning issues. We have another webinar series that recently dealt with the Live Local Act and giving information to citizen planners and local governments about the impacts of the Live Local Act. And then another webinar recently held on the Burt Harris Act, so giving, again, policymakers information about those policies. We also have worked very extensively with the Florida Wildlife Corridor Foundation, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about in a minute. But again, we provide resources for local governments and citizen planners. So our work is to bring the community together to advocate again for smart growth. But we do that in the context of making sure that the local government planners and decision makers understand what we're trying to do. We have also done a number of special reports, and the one that I wanted to talk to you about today specifically is the Ag 2040 report that was conducted in conjunction with the University of Florida Center for Landscape Conservation Planning. Another one that we just released was the Economics of Development in Florida. That is a report that was conducted by Urban Breed, a private entity, and it really highlighted the need for rural preservation and compact design, and showed that under a sprawl scenario, development doesn't pay for itself, it's subsidized by those two other development scenarios. We also recently released a report in conjunction with one of our attorneys, Richard Grosso, who provides information and background on the Burt J. Harris Act. We'll look a little bit more closely at the Ag 2040 report, which is what we presented to our stakeholders in August. Our population trends show a slight decrease in population between 2019 and 2023. A slight increase to 2023, and we expect a slight contraction of population by 2040. But in 2070, we expect the population to increase to almost 29,000 people. This is only a projection, so we know that any single catalyst could change the entire trajectory of growth management and population change in the county. So the way that Taylor County accommodates new residents will preserve or change Taylor County's character. So this is something that we're very aware of, and we want to help advocate for protecting the community character while also allowing for economic and population growth. So under that 2040, 2070 scenario, we looked at what would growth and development look like under a sprawl scenario or a status quo based on what your comprehensive plan says today versus in that 2040 timeframe versus what would happen if we prioritize land acquisition or land conservation into perpetuity. So what this shows is that there's not a lot of difference between the development patterns on that center 2040 sprawl scenario and the 2040 conservation scenario, except that it looks like you could increase your protected land to about 300,000 acres within the county, which is about a threefold increase over what you have today. The other thing I wanted to note is that in the 2040 scenario, under a sea level rise scenario in the models that have been run, it looks as though the county might lose about 48,000 acres to sea level rise. And the majority of that is already in your protected areas. Again, that's that business as usual scenario. And then under the conservation scenario, increasing your land, your protected land by about 300,000 acres. Under this scenario where we're looking at maybe increasing the amount of protected acreage, I want to just point out that, again, that considers the Taylor County 2060 comprehensive plan, and it also aligns with the Florida Wildlife Corridor program, which was a legislatively enacted program in 2021. The state put about $2.2 billion toward acquisition and land conservation in order to enact the Wildlife Corridor. And again, it's an area throughout the state that has been identified for protection by the legislature. So what specifically is it? It's an 18 million acre network based on decades of research by the University of Florida and others. And I just want to highlight here on the right-hand side, that map shows panther habitat. So what they did is they looked at where are the opportunities to connect land so that we have, again, this network of lands for bears, panthers, and other habitat for endangered species and plants. And interestingly, the Big Bend area is well suited for panthers, but we don't have panthers here, primarily because of the dredging that occurred in Southwest Florida and Southeast Florida as well. But you'll note that the majority of panthers are in the southwestern part of the state. So that connection can be very critical to the proliferation of the species. And again, it's just good for Floridians who really value ecological protections. So according to the University of Florida, in Taylor County, there are about 311,000 acres of unprotected land that fall within that Florida wildlife corridor. But because of the comprehensive planning that you've already done, the development that you're projecting is in those least sensitive areas. So very little of the land in Taylor County is at risk for development over the next 20 to 30 years, barring any significant changes to your future land use element or your future land use designations, and barring any huge developments coming in. So I think the take home that I just wanted to present tonight is you have enough land designated for urban uses to carry you into that 2040 and through 2070 scenario. Again, I don't know what happened. Don't want to keep you too long. Again, how we develop our urban areas can protect or harm our rural areas. And Taylor County is primarily rural. We want to make sure that our agricultural areas remain economically feasible. So we support compact development. It enhances our quality of life. It's less costly to taxpayers, and it can diversify your housing market. This is very consistent with what's already in your comprehensive plan. In terms of protecting agricultural and natural land into perpetuity in Taylor County, obviously, again, keeping your agricultural lands profitable is priority number one. You had a presentation on your strategic plan earlier and had a little bit of conversation with the feasibility study for the boat ramps, but looking at the possibility of expanding ecotourism or agritourism and making sure that your policies align with allowing those things to occur if it's a value that the county has is important moving forward. Local landowners can leverage funds by placing their land in conservation or selling it to the state. Unfortunately, we don't have any real monies allocated for Florida Forever this year in the state's budget, which is really unfortunate. But Rural and Family Lands Program did get about $250 million for funding. So that was a win. And then in looking at your coastal development, which probably will come, it's obviously an issue here tonight, having robust coastal standards for development, really understanding what your working waterfronts might look like into the future will be important to protecting those environmental resources and allowing that growth to occur. In terms of what can happen in your more already urbanized areas, we would recommend pursuing the Main Street funding for Perry and other towns within your jurisdiction. Focus your development in areas that are already designated in your future land use map and keep that infrastructure in those areas. And then again, allow for ecotourism and agritourism entrepreneurship opportunities. And that is really all I wanted to say about this today, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that we are a resource for you. We have 40 years of special reports and presentations and webinars to help local governments and their citizens. We would love to work with you into the future. We had about 35 people attend a workshop that we did in August. I think there was obviously came right on the heels of Debbie, so we were told that it was just a very hectic time and even less hectic than what ensued afterwards. So again, we're a resource and we are, again, going to remain actively engaged and look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Move on to 2015, Bob Cake, Director, TCDA, to provide quarterly update, Q2 25.
Again, I'm Bob Cake, and I want to thank you for your time tonight. You know, between the last speaker, I want to tell you I'm certainly supportive of helping us have 29,000 inhabitants in Taylor County. And between Laura DeBella we gave Pat my presentation, and I thought at first, should I be offended? And I said, no, that just proves how aligned we are in terms of what we're focusing on and what we're trying to do. The slides are up here, and let me get started. So I appreciate your time today as I share our most recent TCDA update with you. I'm grateful for the TCDA team that came out tonight to support us. We got several of our board members here. I appreciate that. But also appreciate the support you've given us. There's not been a day, I've been here 10 months and a week. There's not been a day that I didn't feel like we were aligned, that you didn't have my back, that we weren't working on the right priorities, and that I couldn't count on you for honest and thoughtful feedback. So this is continuing that effort tonight with our quarterly update. And so obviously, as you have questions, feel free to ask them, or we'll have plenty of time at the end to do that. The purpose of what I'm sharing tonight is to share what we've been doing, what we have accomplished, where we are focused, in such a way that you have the opportunity to provide meaningful feedback. So together we are successful in our mission to grow the industrial base of Taylor County. As you know, we made a day one commitment to you that not only would we work diligently, but we would communicate effectively. Tonight is a key step in keeping that commitment. In Buckeye, we would have called this a lean visual. This is my effort at drawing the Coliseum using PowerPoint icons. But the point here is I learned a long time ago, I'm a visual learner. When I can see things that I'm trying to describe, then I can communicate them better. And I have really mulled over this and talked about it to the board and talked about some ideas I had, but just created this past week. Certainly not saying the idea of lean visuals is original with me, but I put this one together trying to convey what we're doing and how we all work together. So the thing about in your role, you've got all of these pillars supporting Taylor County. We see education, we see workforce development, healthcare, accessible housing, tourism, community development, retail. My focus is industrial development, and I'll have people come and say, can you help me? And I've never said no to anyone that called and said, can you help me? I've talked to DOT for someone who thought they were making them do something wrong. I've talked to a lady who wanted a ramp put on her mobile home. I don't turn anyone down, but at the end of the day, I won't regard this as a successful effort if we got a ramp on a deck and avoided adding a turn lane at a place. So it's all important that we play together, we work together, and that's been a consistent message I've had. I want you to know at TCDA, we wake up in the morning thinking about industrial development. We think about it all day long, and when we go to bed at night, we think about, were we effective today? Did we do it well? What could we have done better, and how can we better it tomorrow? That is how we're focusing. I realize when I give quarterly updates, that if I'm not careful, I can be boring, and I don't want that to be, because if you think economic development and industrial development in Taylor County is boring, you have got another thought coming. It'll keep you awake at night, it'll keep you working on the weekends. I will tell you how I'm thinking about what I'm going to share and only briefly revisit the three-legged stool concept, but Laura hit it so effectively. We have to take care of the industry that did not leave.
Yeah.
We have to look after them. We have to almost pester them. Sometimes I think they have felt, I won't say abandoned because I'm not putting off on anyone, but we assumed they'd be here. Then we got worried when someone left. We need to not assume anything. We need to work with all of them, and we do work with all of them. Also work on recruiting the industry, and that will be my primary focus tonight. I will get there quickly. Laura already hit very well on our qualified sites, but I will have some of that information as well. Learn another thing, it's not if you build it, they will come. You got to go out and tell them you're building it. You got to go out and tell them we're here, we're Taylor County. And I've called it, and none of this is original to me, but for me, I've coined it, why Taylor and why now? And you'll see some feedback on that in just a minute as I go through this. And I realized we have some tools. I had a lot of hubris, I think, when I came into that. I admitted I was ignorant, didn't know a lot of things. But I remember standing here saying I did not come here to make brochures, and then tonight I started by handing you a brochure. But if you open this, and you don't need to open it yet, we'll hit it later. This is not how to scallop in Taylor County or who the fishing guides are. This is where are the properties, and where's the interstate, and where's the people, and what do we have going for Florida, and what do we have going for Taylor County? Because when someone wants to call and talk, I want to be able to say, yes, let me shoot you something on email, or let me hand you something, or if I go speak, let me pass this out. So we now have that, and I got over my kind of false pride on that. We have to have things to hand people. We have to be able to tell them our story and tell it quickly. So we'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation. We are not all things to all people. It's a great phrase, and if you're in the Bible, it's a great phrase, biblically speaking, but that is not what we are. We know what we know here. We have got some good things going for us that we need to be leveraging off of. We have got wood manufacturing in our veins. We have got light and heavy industry. Look what we do with aluminum. Look what we do with munitions and defense. Laura talked about expanding into the aviation, aerospace. These are things we can do. You know, we're not everything to everybody. If someone, I don't tell anyone no, but I've told some people, you might be looking at the wrong county. At first, if you want us to give us to give you the land, you're probably looking at the wrong county. Second, if you want us to buy you to come here, pay you to come here, we'll incentivize you. But incentives, let me tell you, they're a tipping point. This is not like, well, I wasn't going to do anything, but boy, your incentives are so good, I've decided to spend $65 million. It doesn't happen that way. Don't let anyone tell you it does. What happens is like I'm thinking about you or somewhere else, and we say, we'll work with you. Here's how we can do it. And we will work with you, and this is how we can do it. Since we last met, I'm going to get to the interesting part. I hope it's interesting. We've connected with 9 new industries expressing interest in Taylor County. We've lost 4 that were on our list last time, plus 2 of the new ones. So of those 9, 7 are still on our list. This is on the next page. 4 of them went inactive. I'm calling it inactive. They're off the list because they're waiting to see where tariffs are going to play out. They don't know if they're going to build or not. And if things settle out that they get a deal with their country, it may or may not. They may or may not come. A couple of them, their financing went out from under them. So they're like, yeah, we're still interested, but until we get our money back, well, I'm not going to bring that to you and say we've got a hot topic on the list when I know it's not hot. And we've got one with intellectual property. They thought they owned some property on some intellectual property to do something, and they're in court over litigating it. If they went out, they'll be back. And if not, we call them inactive. 2 weeks ago, Laura referenced, 2 weeks ago today, we had a company came and spent the afternoon here. They spent the morning in another Florida county. They were down to the final 2 counties. They picked the other county. That's how close we have come. So these aren't just airplanes circling the airport at 30,000 feet on the traffic delay. These are people trying to land their plane. We will win some of these. The way we'll do that, we'll keep bringing in these opportunities, keep working on these opportunities. Turn to the next page, you will see the project list. I will see it up there. It's on my presentation. I don't know what happened. Wow. That's very disappointing. All right, well, what you're looking at if you're in the audience, and I can only apologize, is I have cut an Excel spreadsheet. It shows our project list. It shows 12 industries, since you cannot see this. It shows that we have heavy industry, we have wooden products, we have munitions. Here's a couple of copies for you all, if you can't see it. A couple more for you all if you can't see it. We have heavy industry, we have light industry. We have aviation and aerospace. I think I said munitions. We have 1 biofuels. And these are on our active list. I color coded that, so for those of you who can see, the blue means they were on the list last time. So 5 of these that I shared last time are still here and still in the works. And the green ones are the new ones. So just trying to get this, and I'm giving it such a, and I call it sanitized. It's completely 100% high integrity, honest. But everybody's got a project name. I spent 3 weeks last time people coming to me saying, I think this company must be that company. You don't have to tell me, just tell me if I'm right. I said, I'm going to tell you nothing. You got the same slide I got, and that's all you get. The next ones, and again, I apologize if you'll pass those around. We have our fact sheets, and I'm not going to make you read them all, but I do want you to know this exists. And it's something you should have and be able to hand someone, but it's something also I want you as county commissioners to be able to articulate. Because maybe you that's at a meeting and someone says, I'd like to come to Taylor County. You say, let me tell you why Taylor. Because we've got these multiple sites, and let me show you where they are. And we're near the interstate. We've got this many people in the radius around us. And by the way, what is our story? We have people. We lost the Georgia Pacific site. We lost not the site, the mill. We lost the West Fraser. So we got top, talented, trained people, some of them employed, some of them underemployed. We have natural gas, we have the high pressure transmission pipeline, we've got Duke Energy, we said, we asked Duke how much power they got, they said up to 50 megawatts. Now, we have had people want a whole lot more than that, but that's a start for most industries, a real good start. We've got water, we sit on the floor of an aquifer. We have got the things that certain industries are looking for and value, and they can't find them everywhere. So I just shared those with you, and now I'm going to go to the Duke Energy Site Readiness Assessment. If you're trying to stay with me, we're on slide 10. So, of course, Andy Jackson, and what a great job he's done with Graham's Legacy, but Duke gave us the chance, and I mentioned it to you last time, to do that for another piece of property. They ended up only doing 3 in the entire state. Our 51 acre, we call it the City of Perry property. It's across the street from Foley Cellulose. So thinking, where is it? It's across the street from Foley Cellulose. They sent us a spreadsheet. Andy, you have my sympathy, and I understand the sleepless nights you probably had. 361 line items had to be filled out, and not a single one was hardly yes or no. Most of them were like essay questions. We filled it all out, tremendous amount of help. Then they came and spent the day with us, gave us some good feedback. Then they asked a dozen more questions that I've spent up to and including sitting in the back of this room answering. And they come back on June 25th and we'll give the final overview on the property and kind of what the next steps are. But this process will draw to a conclusion here before the end of the month. On that second slide, we got paid a compliment. First, I want to thank Duke Energy again for sponsoring this. They footed the bill. But we now have 2 properties in Taylor County, Graham's Legacy, which is certainly ready to go. And we propose it, as Laura said, every time anyone asks anything, we talk about Graham's Legacy. We'll have a second property that's in that same caliber. It's a good property. It's good like Graham's Legacy is good. It's got points. They all have their own strengths. We appreciate Duke supporting that. But this was the letter I got back from the Site Readiness Group. That is the name of the company. And this, I just excerpted this. It said, we spend time in all types of communities across the country, but the ones that stand out are the communities with heart and a story to tell. Thank you for making that story come to life during our visit. What we're trying to do here is not just get one site ready. We're trying to get an attitude out there. We're trying to get people that think about Taylor County and they think about that to be a good place to go. Yes, it's a rural community, and that's an advantage. That's not a disadvantage. And it's got natural gas, it's got electricity, it's got a work ethic, and we are putting that out there. And we want, when you get a letter like that, you feel like they didn't just come and see the City of Perry property. When they get someone calls from Saudi Arabia and says, we want to come to Florida, they might be thinking about us now. Give you a couple updates on, we covered West Fraser Sawmill real well, but I can just tell you that the list of people we have sent to John Sherrill is not short. He has his own list of people who come to him directly. So I again would just say, never promise what I can't deliver, but I would, if I were sitting in a chair thinking, should I be encouraged about that property, I'd be thinking, yes. And then Laura gave us a good update on GP, Foley Cellulose. In my slide, I just walk you through it. Demolition did officially begin. I know you'll see this in the paper, but in case you haven't seen it on the page, it officially began. The notification is to start the 29th of May. The schedule shows it'll be through August 31st of 2026. They have said, and I have no reason to doubt their accuracy or veracity, we are retaining the wastewater treatment, the 2 warehouses. For those of you who know the property, we're talking about the purchasing warehouse and the converting warehouse, or the number 4 warehouse. And as much rail as possible. Their intent is to preserve all the rail, but if they have to destroy something to get to something, there'll just be a section that got destroyed. But there's no plan to demolish the rail. On April 4th, 4 Rivers filed suit against GP regarding the wastewater treatment pipeline and its continued usage after the move shut down. We, of course, don't take any position on any of those things. That's all being played out, and that's all going to be played out in public to some extent. So to the extent it goes to court and there's things that'll all happen. So I'm not trying to take something behind the scenes that's out there. But again, I would really emphasize what what Laura said on the 6th of June, and say the ice cracked. I regard my last 18 months, not my great career with Georgia Pacific, but the last 18 months of like, I was on the Antarctic ice plateau, and we couldn't find a crack anywhere to get a wedge in. And I just say the ice cracked. When that lady said, I've been in your seat before, I have sat and had property and had someone want to get it, and I've sat and needed to get property and someone had it. How can we work together? I just like, my jaw dropped, and I just felt like, wow. In fact, I texted Laura, said, you know, if an orthodontist pushes on a tooth long enough, they don't do it with a hammer. Just push and push and push and push, and it felt like the tooth moved on that day. Okay, we're also expanding our outreach efforts. Laura talked about the Duke Energy Foundation Economic Development Grant that we've applied for. Let me make perfectly clear, it's not been awarded and won't be awarded until July. But when we look at our outreach, and now we've got a tool with our brochure, and we've got I will speak anywhere they let me speak, and I'll talk to anybody they let me talk to. In fact, I have a conference call with Florida Commerce a Thursday morning at 9 a.m. So we're out there every day. But when you look at some of the people's websites, we would not probably yet say, take a look at our website and be really proud of it. We've got a website. I'm not ashamed of it. But if we had $25,000 of Duke Energy grant money, we can make that thing. We can get our properties, we can get the drone flybys like Andy has over his property. We can get a lot more of those things and make Taylor County, this isn't to make me look good or TCDA look good. It's to get Taylor County out in front in a way that catches your eye. And then it's funny because we just celebrated the Army's 250th anniversary this past weekend, and to quote General Colin Powell, there are no secrets to success. It is a result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. And that's what we're doing. There's no secret to this. You can't shortcut it. In summary, as I told you last time, I wish I could say we had a ribbon cutting. We don't have a ribbon cutting, but you already do that. What we do have is a whole lot of interest. If it's not, doesn't seem true, just think about it. I brought you 11 projects 4 months ago. Only 5 of those are still there, but I brought you 12 projects today, 7 new ones. So there are people looking at Taylor County. We could be one keystroke away. 2 weeks ago Tuesday, they could have said yes instead of somewhere else. They could have. They were that close. So we could be, or not. You don't know. But I appreciate your interest. I appreciate your support. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. What questions do you have?
I just have the one business that ended up choosing another county. What was the feedback that you all received and maybe why they would have chosen another county?
I am prepared to answer that question, but my first answer is they don't always tell you exactly the truth. So if you told, I mean that not like they lied to you, but if they thought, well, I don't hurt your feelings, we didn't like something, I don't know if that's what they said in private. What they told us is it was neck and neck, it was very close. And because of that, though, when they looked, this was heavy industry, and when they looked at the Graham's Legacy property and saw the neighborhood behind it, they were concerned about putting heavy industry with a neighborhood behind it, to which, of course, we responded. West Fraser has run a sawmill there, or previous sawmills, for 50 years. This neighborhood is used to trucks and traffic and noise and would welcome heavy industry back to the area. And then the second thing was, not a tipping, these are factors, though. They mentioned that all things being equal, they wanted to be closer to Jacksonville, and their alternative was about 50 miles closer to Jacksonville. So that's what we got told, but I wouldn't tell you to take that check to the bank and cash it. Good question.
I get a lot of questions from citizens is, why don't we bring in more retail, more restaurants, more things for entertaining, such as bowling alleys and stuff like that? And I know what I tell them, but and I know the reason, but can you just, for the public's information, can you speak to that just a couple of minutes?
Commissioner, I believe I can, but make sure you're getting Bob Kate, the private citizen's opinion. You saw that you're sitting on top of that coliseum that I drew, looking at all those legs. A lot of this is tied to rooftops and habited people in homes. And so we say we want to have a prime sirloin, and they're doing a demographics and saying, well, you know, your median income is this, and you've got 7,000 families, and we need 10,000. Our surveys say we don't make it if we don't have it. They look at that. So we still feel like we're working on the right things with industrial development, because that's what's gonna bring rooftops. Now, other things can bring rooftops too, but we talk about, you know, the kind of jobs that were lost when Foley Cellulose closed and West Fraser closed, and these people were making an income that they have not, by and large, replaced. And so that's my 2 minutes, is it's all based on rooftops, which is really demographics. And I'm not talking about certain kind of demographics, I'm just saying how many people do you have and how many live in the area and how many would drive to Perry to eat. And I think there's all kinds of things we can do to make ourselves look better and to clean up storm damage and do all that. But at the end of the day, if we get 500 jobs here for 500 families, the restaurants will follow.
The amenities are gonna come. And
Yes.
that's one of the things that I tell people to, you know, aside from the demographics and all that, that the amenities will come.
Exactly.
Thank you. I appreciate what you and the other members of TCA are doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, all of you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, I got a question, more of an insight. Dealing with Mr. Sherrill, right?
Yes.
Dixie County boy from way back. Made everything he's had. I knew him in the fishing business, knew him with Gulf Coast. Dealt with him, he built a lot of my mini storage buildings. I was impressed. I think if that deal goes down, I think that's the example of the kind of guy. Now, he might not keep it forever, right? Because he's got a history of building them up and moving on.
Right.
But he does everything first class. I think, what do you think? What's your,
My opinion is he's top tier. He does what he says, and, you know, the public record says this is his 12th or 13th sawmill to buy that was already shut down, and he has done what he said every time. There's none of them that he's sitting on. He cleaned them up, got them ready where people who wouldn't take the risk of, I want to buy it and clean it and all of that, but they wanted a prepared site, and he's done it 12 times, and there's no reason to think he's not going to do it 13. And in fact, he's got more out in front of him. This is what he now does. I mean, he does other things, but this is what he does. And there are places where people have taken, and I'll just read these things in the magazines, not Taylor County, but where someone will come in and buy a site and say, I'm going to remediate it. But what they're waiting is for some kind of 5 years from now, things are really good and all, and the town sits and suffers for that whole time. This is a person who is, I mean, he can tell you, in West Virginia, I bought this, I cleaned it up, and now they're making activated charcoal at it. In this place, I bought this, I cleaned it up, and now they're making, so he definitely has thus far kept his word, and I have no reason to think he won't here. Laura, would you add anything to that? Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, he's, the best part about him is that he has the trust and confidence of not only West Fraser, but also Georgia Pacific. So, I think we're in good hands. We're in good hands.
Thank you, and I appreciate your kind of testimonial. Laura and I drove to Ocala and met with him in November, so we've been working on this for a long time, feels like.
he bought the Cross City Lumber Company, the Georgia Pacific plant there. And a lot of people didn't stay around to see it progress, you know what I mean? But it's working out fine down there.
Thank you, good question. I don't want to monopolize your time. Thank you very much.
Anyone, any other questions? All right. Thank you, Bob.
Look, I appreciate Bob and Ms. Stewart. I also appreciate Mr. Jackson trying to come in and help also. Not only to help him, but to help the community. Anytime you lose 700 jobs and you got somebody out there trying to sell something, trying to bring something in, my hat's off to him. Anything I can do to help, I'm with him.
All right, we'll move on to next staff item, item 17, the board to review And consider approval of Amendment 1 to the State of Florida Department of Commerce Grant Agreement number 10183, increasing the budget from 1.6 million to 2.5 million for the Dr. Memorial Hospital roofing project, presented by the Wanda Pemberton County Administrator, Melanie Cox.
Melody, are you on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
This grant is this amendment is to increase the grant from 1.6 million to 2.5 to include design and engineering services, which had not been requested in the original grant. In addition, there was additional damage to the walls in the area known as the penthouse that need to be repaired. So with this budget increase, it will fully fund this project with no match from the county or CMH. And I just want to say to y'all, this has been the best experience working with Florida Commerce and our partners. I just can't say enough. They've coached us through some of this. They've assisted us with environmental studies. But the whole project team has just been, they've been amazing. Ms. LaWanda has worked so closely with them. We've worked closely with Jody McCormick at Florida Commerce, DMH, ALW, who you selected to be the project architect, has been so helpful in providing information because, let's face it, Ms. LaWanda and I are not hospital roof experts or architects, so they have assisted us in part of the information we needed. But I just want to let you know, this has just been a wonderful, wonderful project team to make this happen, and Florida Commerce has went above and beyond.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Any comments from the board?
Is this a design build?
So, the first portion is the design and then the construction will follow. So, but the entire project is $2.5 million. So the portion that was added was to assist with the design portion and also for that one portion of the roof. They call it a penthouse, it's not. It is basically an equipment storage area that needs replacement as well, correct?
Because
of the HVAC.
Right.
Yes, so they won't get a warranty.
The entire scope of work for the project. The design, the architectural part required by Agency for Healthcare Administration, and the actual repair to the roofing. So the total scope of work for the completion of the project.
So Commissioner Fiegel, it's not design build, but the architect is going to help with the bid documents for the actual construction.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? No question, we'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to
Motion by
approve.
Commissioner Fiegel to approve, second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Moving on to thank you, Madeline. We're on item 18, the board to consider approval of budget transfer of 1 cent sales tax reserves for the purchase of an additional roll-off truck for environmental services, presented by Gary Lombo, Environmental Service Director.
Gary's here somewhere, okay.
Yeah, he's back.
Gary?
You better. Come on.
Basically, we're in need of some new trucks, and wanted to force me to come up here and ask you guys to.
So there was one roll-off truck that was in the budget. And so if you recall, about the time we had so many issues with our trucks, one of the trucks became available. That was purchased with the funds that were in the budget. Our question is, there is another truck that will be available in July?
Should be July.
Which was the truck that we had originally wanted to order. So the question is if you will consider utilizing 1 cent sales tax reserves to purchase the additional truck now. We did not include it in next year's budget request. We can, but then we'll have to start the process all over again to purchase another truck.
What's the cost?
A little over $230,000.
And is time of the essence?
The problem we got with these trucks,
I can't hear you. Can you come up?
yes. The problem we got with these trucks is, these trucks are being built by Mack. And they can't get basically the parts for them. So, and I don't know how they're surviving selling trucks today, but used to there'd be 500 out there. Well, you probably know, Jim. It's like a list, and they say, well, we'll have 200, and that may be 10 to 12 months down the road. They do not have anything sitting out there where you can just purchase, like show up and say, hey, we need a truck. It's got to be basically forecast out a long time to get it. You just can't purchase one. And I asked them, did they think it was gonna get any better? And they said with the tariffs and stuff, they're not sure. So a lot of the parts are physically coming from overseas too. When you're dealing with Mack, some of the components like Allison transmission and stuff, they can get trucks sometimes, but can't get the parts to build a roll on, if that makes sense. That's where they're at.
You're looking to replace the 07?
We're gonna try to move Ed out. Hank's in need of a truck. We probably just shipped it over there to him. He's struggling. He don't have one. But like that 07, this week we had a turbo go out and it was $4,800 just for that. Somewhere after the mileage gets so much, if the transmission goes out, is it really worth fixing, Because the truck may be only worth 8,000 and the transmission 16, so you gotta make that call. And you seen what happened when our trucks were down. We were on the struggle bus countywide. It was like, I know you guys were getting the calls.
We got drivers for the trucks.
We do. Some of the drivers been there a while, some haven't, and it's like anything else. They float in and out, but we've been able to get some good drivers over the last 2 years. So we've been fortunate with that.
Well, the engine's in that 07, it's on the verge that you could lose that engine.
Anytime.
Anytime.
And we try to maintain them. We do a lot of work with Nextran in Lake City. Some out of our scope we'll pull over there because it ain't practical for us to jump on something we know it's way out of our league. So, and they charge almost between $120 and $200 an hour.
The truck we buy they tell us we buy at 800,000, 250. You can expect that engine to get it. Now, they're not lying.
And they'll give you a range when you buy it. They say, here, these trucks, at 450, 500, you're gonna start pumping money into them. And life expectancy, like you said, 800,000. If you get past that, it's a gift.
Yeah. Lease options. Have you considered that, and what's the pros and cons of that more than anything, the cons?
We looked at them, and Lawanda looked at them pretty hard, I think, because we gave her the information. And the lease is the kind of the least resistance. It's easy to get into that, and we got into it the last time, and it kind of backfired on us a little
What
bit.
happened?
If you'll recall, so we did enter into a lease agreement for 2 roll-off trucks, and those are the 2 2020. And then we also entered into a lease agreement through the same company for Public Works for 2 dump trucks. And shortly after we entered into those agreements, because the promise was at so many miles, we'll replace your truck. Well, that company went out of business at almost about the time we signed the lease with them. So that's why that's unfortunately why we're in the position that we're in, as far as having so many trucks that are older. And so we did not add the purchase of trucks back to our capital improvement plan until just this year. Because we had looked at the lease option, but
It looks good on paper. The key thing with the lease, and you guys probably realize this, the warranty on it, it covers a long range on the mileage on the warranty. So when it gets to around 90 or 100,000, they'll come in and bring you another truck. You just continually keep paying lease payments. It's a good thing in a sense because of the warranty behind it, but it could, just like this, it backfired on us and we ended up absorbing that, and
But are they gonna have a truck to honor the agreement?
Well, I don't know.
They go into bankruptcy and you're stuck.
Well,
It's
yeah,
uncharted area, really. We didn't know what the
Well,
maps got.
we know you can't get the trucks aren't readily available, so.
We just
Get
tried to
one
pay it
to the
off.
lot, they're not gonna come drop you another lot, they're gonna have another one sit on the lot.
so what happened with those is we continued the lease for one truck, but then we ended up purchasing, so out of four trucks, we purchased two and we continued the lease with two. So, and then obviously there is an amount of interest that you pay or profit that you pay for lease payments. I mean, we can look at that again. We just really didn't want to lose the opportunity to be able to purchase a truck that we know will be ready for us, next month. And have the ability to have two newer trucks. And then, and then at that point, we'll have four trucks that are under 300,000 miles on them, with the hope of lowering the repair and maintenance costs and, stabilizing our fleet, basically.
I just, just wanted to ask the question because, with this situation that we're in, with our budget and everything, I just didn't know. I know, I hear that you had we've had one bad experience, but that doesn't mean that all of them will be, you would hope that all of them would not be bad experiences, but I just don't think that it hurts to look at all of the options, and maybe this is the best option now. But I just think we've got to get used to looking at everything that we can, because I think times are gonna even get harder before they get better.
I'd say for me, it's a service that we required to give, to offer to give to citizens of this community. I'd support, if we got a truck readily available, I'd support the purchase of the truck.
You need a motion?
Any other comments from the board? Yeah, and we'll stay in motion, if there's no discussion, we'll stay in motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Moody to approve, do you have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Newman, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our county attorney, item 19, county attorney to discuss Taylor County versus Ashley Hudson.
This is one where the police board, where they got an order and fined the person for not cleaning up like they were supposed to do. And I looked at it and I think, and this is just my thinking, would be that if y'all want to get it cleaned up, and quickest and easiest way to do it would be for, y'all tell me to file for an injunction to enjoin, because I sent the lady letters. I've got pictures of where the problem is. There's a bunch of junk and it's getting very close to the road. And if the court were to grant the injunction, telling the person, you gotta move it, and then they don't do it, then we've got contempt power on that. Years ago, I did one on a guy that was putting stuff out in the water, and we were successful in getting it moved out by the injunction process. The same is true as number 20. Well, there's another one that I'm recommending that. It's up to y'all, and of course, I can't guarantee that we're going to be successful, but we've been successful in the past about doing that.
Do you need a motion for that? I'll make a motion that we move ahead with the attorney, we're doing, what is it, being?
File and sue.
Yeah.
In both of them.
With both of them.
Item 19 and 20, on item 20 is the attorney to discuss Taylor County versus Robert County.
Both of them.
Include both.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Commissioner Field for item 19 and item 20, with a second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor?
I'll keep you informed.
Good luck.
So, let's back up a little bit now. Once you do that, what will it say, Conrad?
What will it say?
Once you do this, what happens then?
Oh, when you get an injunction?
Mhm.
Okay.
What does the injunction say?
The injunction says, Mr. So-and-so, you need to do that, you need to move it, or get rid of it, or clean it up, and then if they don't do it, see, it's an order of the court, it's not an order of the hearing officer, it's an order of the court, and if they don't do it, then number one, they can be held in contempt, and of course, I'm gonna ask for authority for us to go ahead and do it for them. In other words, to get it, if they won't do it, then we'll do it.
And there's a date certain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, we'll go on to our county administrator item 21. The board to consider approval of opioid settlement funding subcontract agreement with Dr. Memorial Hospital Incorporated as agenda by Wanda Pemberton, county administrator.
There is one correction I'd like to make to this. Under the fiscal impact, we had listed $49,834. That's actually $74,751. It was more than we initially anticipated. So we'll need to make that correction within the contract. And the budget that was submitted by DMH was $5,000 for medication-assisted treatment, $30,000 for expansion of warm handoff program and recovery services. That is to support a case manager work to track patients seen in the emergency department that need follow-up services for opioid use and abuse. $15,000 to provide community education programs on opioid addiction. $14,751 to provide transportation to patients in need of outpatient follow-up services, and then $10,000 for prevention programs, for a total of, again, $74,751. Now, this is the pot of money that flows through NWF. It's not it's for the non-qualified counties. So remember, we have two pots of money for opioid settlement funding. So this is a separate pot of money. I'm asking you to approve the agreement with Doctors Memorial Hospital. This is a second-year agreement, and then we have to report that directly to the reporting agency in the state of Florida.
Yeah, when we first started this, and I attended the first meeting.
Yes.
And haven't heard anything since then, except I know that there was a vehicle purchased. I think we might have approved that. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, I would like to have a report from somebody that kind of says, this is what we've done, this is just what's been done, and how many patients this and that, and just,
That's why Lauren's here. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I wasn't prepared to give a full report with the statistics. I don't have that with me, but I can talk in general, and then I'm happy to come back and give you
Would
a
you do
report with
that?
statistics. Yeah, you want me to come next meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening.
I hope it's a success story.
Yep.
I want to hear all about it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? No other comments, will obtain a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Moody, we got a second. Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Item 22, the board to consider approval of lease amendment number 5 for real property with U.S. General Services Administration at the Perry Foley Airport, agenda by Wanda Pemberton, County Administrator, and Ward Kent, Airport Manager.
So Ward is here, so he can make any comments or answer any questions. But this is an amendment of the lease that was approved last year for the FEMA housing trailers that are at the airport. They're in the closed runway section of the airport. And this is basically to amend the agreement so we can offer, they will pay us for utilities and they will not pay their bills direct. They just want a turnkey operation So that requires a lease agreement. So the totals are $21,595 monthly for the rent, and then the utilities is an additional $973 a month for portable toilets, $493 for electrical, and then there is some back rent and utilities that they will be paying that's amended with this agreement.
This is the only one you can find. We don't have several more we can get this kind of money from.
Well, we are working on that, Commissioner. But this has provided some much needed revenue to the airport, and I think it's probably stabilized that airport fund until we get to the point where we can add more hangars or perhaps get another user at the airport.
Any other questions for the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Figel with a second by Commissioner Dent. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 23, board consider approval of request for proposal package and advertisement for property casualty and workers' compensation coverage as identified by Alonda Pemberton, County Administrator.
So the board has indicated that wishes to advertise for proposals for property casualty and workers' compensation insurance. These lines of coverage include general liability, cybersecurity, public officials liability, property, inland marine, business, auto, and workers' compensation. Since our last conversation when the board asked us to move forward with this, I have been contacted by Florida Association of Counties Trust, and they have offered a discount of $19,000 for next fiscal year if the board wishes to remove liability and cybersecurity from the request for proposals. This would just allow us to continue our relationship with Florida Association of Counties Trust if we wish to remove that from the packet. So that would leave auto liability, auto property, property insurance, and workers' comp.
So reduce the coverage that we have today.
No, sir. So what they're asking us to consider is if we want to retain fact for our liability and our cybersecurity coverage, and they're the ones, that's the organization that offers us the employment law attorney. They represent us in any liability cases. So, and we've been a member with them for a very long period of time. So they basically said, we will offer you a reduction in your premium if you wish to stay with us and then pursue the request for proposals for the other lines of coverage, which is really the lion's share of our coverage.
So reduce rate for the services we already know we get from the bank.
Yes.
What is your take on this? What is your take on this?
Well, we have a long-standing relationship with FACT. Of course, we do with Florida League of Cities as well. So I appreciate their offer to reduce that premium. We pay $147,373 in premiums for general liability and $6,614 for cybersecurity. What's unknown is if we put that out for RFP, if those premiums would be less, we don't know. But they have offered to reduce that. You know, I would like to continue our relationship with FACT, but I'm not adamant about it. I really am looking to the board for some guidance on that. And again, that would be the lion's share, I believe, of the premium, you know, the lion's share of the premium payments that we make are mainly for property insurance, workers' comp, auto liability, and auto property. So it's a small piece of the pie, but I can't guarantee that the $19,000 discount that they're offering would be the absolute lowest that we would get. So it's more of a comfort, I would say, just because we know how they've protected us in the past as far as liability. And, you know, we can continue that relationship with them.
How much time do we have?
Well, I think for budgeting purposes, we really need to move forward with proposals because, I mean, the new policy year would not start until October 1st. So I feel like, I mean, it's not the very last minute, but I know that we're soliciting for proposals for our healthcare insurance now. I mean, if you wish to table it, we could talk about it at the next meeting, but I don't think I'd wait any longer than that because we would need to advertise for 30 days and then receive the proposals and go through that whole
I
process.
just hate not to, you know, at least test the water and just see what it would take versus just automatically, okay, yeah, we're gonna do this. So my preference would be to table this and to see this gentleman's raising his hand back here.
I think that's how we got to this point we are today, looking for the approvals, because the board, had asked to put it out for an RFP out. So
I'm just conveying the offer that was made.
I don't know that, I mean, we need to table anything, or do we move forward with what we already requested
It's up
to
to
do?
y'all.
I mean, we're here because we already requested the staff to move forward in this direction.
But I'm not going to keep an offer to myself and not share it with
I
the board.
understand, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we keep going and looking for it, and we're, this man back here. wants-
I can offer some opinion on that as board member. So, by the way, my name is Michael Richter. I'm with Boyd Insurance and Investment. We do a lot of municipalities, and I plan to bring a proposal forward for Taylor County with one of the few competing carriers in the state. This is just an indication of what you will experience through this RFP process, just the mere speak of it. We want to reduce premium. We don't want to go to bid against the carriers. So the competition in the marketplace will show you what you have available to you. I feel confident you'll see at least that much savings in those lines of coverage. And also what we'll present to you is not a take all or nothing proposal. So you could still remain with FACT if you so choose after your review. And I'm confident that our competitive bid process will bring you, great savings. So I would encourage the board to move forward with a full bid process, allow the marketplace to perform for you and see what you got.
I agree with
So the way that the RFP is worded is, it lists the insurance coverages and then asks that proposers submit proposals for coverage and commission, and they should indicate any discounts available for bundled coverages. Now, I guess, Conrad, if you'll help me, do we need to add verbiage in there that basically states that the board may wish to separate the award is, okay, will you help me with that verbiage? Okay.
For a nickel.
I just want to make sure I make it clear in our RFP.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That we're willing to award multiple companies, in other words.
Very nice. Very nice.
You need a motion to that?
So, we would just obtain a motion to approve this, to go out for the RFP.
Contingent upon the additional language, right?
Contingent upon this additional language. Get with us.
Okay.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Dent, we have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Teagle, all in favor? Aye. Item 24, the board to consider approval request for proposal packet and advertisement for countywide emergency medical services as presented by the Wanda Fullerton Center Administrator and Dan Castle, Fire Chief.
So, Dan and I worked on this. I'm very grateful for his input as far as being in the field and able to offer some real-time experiences. This is very similar to the request for proposals that we advertised 5 years ago. However, we did make two very important changes. in my opinion. In the contract, we added that the supervisor position would be within the county and they would be here on a regular basis, because that was not in our contract 5 years ago, and we regretted it. It was in our request for proposal documents, but not within the contract. We also wish to double the response time fees if 3 or more consecutive occurrences within a calendar year. So in other words, if three months in a row, if we see that there is the response times are not where they should be, then at that point we can double from, and we've never had anything over a $2,500 penalty, but at that point we can double it to the $5,000. So we did add that language to the contract as well in the request for proposals.
Yeah, and I have to share this story. I had one of my constituents, and who is also a friend, that called me a couple of days ago. It might have been yesterday, I don't remember. But he is a senior citizen, and he fell the night before at home, and he broke his hip. Mm-hmm. And so he called the ambulance, and they responded in a timely manner to take him to the local hospital. And it wasn't until way up into the next afternoon before he was transferred. Now, I know that, and I've read the criteria for inter-facility transfers, and I know that it's things such as stroke, heart attack, hemorrhaging, and just a very few more. And I'll tell you, with this situation, with a senior citizen that breaks their hip, and they have to sit in the emergency room for that many hours waiting to be transferred, and then possibly have to wait till the next day before they have surgery, it just prolonged his pain and suffering. And so there should be some clause in there that when you've got situations like this, that they can make exceptions. Because if I fell and broke my hip, I'm going to sit out there for 16 or 18 hours in pain and suffer. I want to get to where I'm supposed to go.
Remember, though, that DMH has partnered with another agency for interfacility transfers, and
yeah, I don't think they're up and, I don't think they've stood up the new truck yet, but it's.
July 1st is when they will start that arrangement with Doctors Memorial Hospital, and that's the very reason. So if it's an interfacility transfer and not emergent, then at that point, this other company who the board has agreed for COPCN, they will be basically on site at DMH to help with those interfacility transfers.
Would the TAT be better?
I think that's the hope.
This other truck that
Barnes on the line.
is, instead of having to wait for Century to get one of their IFT trucks to come over,
Right.
Survival Flight is gonna have a truck on site. So as soon as Century says, oh, it's gonna be 6 hours, they can look at Survival Flight and say, go ahead and go.
Right.
And so and that's a big reason why the board went ahead and chose to give the additional COPCN, to have another company operate within the county, to cut down. That was a big reason for that, is to cut down on those times and also eliminate or lessen the amount of times that we have to rely on our 911 trucks to do interfacilities. Obviously, we want to leave those trucks available as much as possible for 911 calls. And by having another provider in county, it's going to eliminate those long. But it's July 1st is when we'll see that really start being impacted.
And Lauren's on the line. She's raising her hand. I think she wants to speak to that.
I was just gonna say exactly what you just said, that they've been on site all week, our new crew training, and they will be ready to go July 1st. Now, there's gonna be times where they are also on the road, but we had just another resource, and they're totally dedicated to us, and we'll be helping each other, and so I think it will alleviate some of that, but there are a lot of EMA agencies that are having staffing crisis right now, and there are times like TMH's EMS will not be running in the evenings because they have no staff. So that is part of the issue. Sometimes they have trucks and not staff, sometimes the trucks are gone for hours. But we have about, this will increase us to about 5 or 6 different options to solve for transfer. But starting July 1st, hopefully that's going to help a lot.
So we are seeking approval to begin advertising for these services, and we will advertise for 30 days and then, or approximately 30 days, and then receive the proposals at a subsequent meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Febo to approve in a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moody, all in favor? Aye. Item 25, city administrator to discuss information on items.
So I just wanted to share formally with the board that the 2025 legislative session is at an end, and I learned that there are 3 legislative appropriation projects that were approved by the legislature, and so they're in the budget. We are waiting for the governor to sign. He still has the ability to veto. One is the public safety complex that was funded at $6,750,000. The other is the Keaton Beach Fire Station that was included in the budget at $1 million. And the third is the air handlers for the courthouse. And those were funded at a little over $750,000. So the total impact is about $8.4 million to Taylor County. So now we're waiting the 15 days to see if the governor signs the budget, or, again, he has veto power. So we'll be anxiously awaiting that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, item 26, we'll go to comments and concerns from the public for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items, from the public. 27, board informational items, Commissioner Febo.
Yes, we need to sign the one at the airport for the VA office and the grants office, out by the road.
We did one.
I didn't see it, I was out there this afternoon.
It's written across the bottom of the sign where the airport's across the top. The veteran services is across the bottom.
Well, if I can't see it, how many other people can't see it?
Yeah, we can look at that. I mean, it might be that I don't, maybe the writing's small, or.
Okay, I'll go back and look at it tomorrow. Because,
It's not a huge sign, but.
it can't be.
Right. And I'm trying to remember when that was added. It's
been out there for a while.
Do you remember?
Yes, it was before the hurricanes.
Right.
Yes, it is small. It's not near as big as the airport.
Yeah, I wonder how many citizens don't see it either, because, but I'll take a picture of it tomorrow, and we might need to discuss that again. And also, did we ever, pick up the sign off of the ground at the Keaton Beach Fire Station? Is it still down, or did we ever pick it up?
It's been picked up and we have a replacement on
Say
order.
again,
It's picked up and we have a replacement on order, so we can.
it's being replaced? Yeah, it was on the ground a long time. That's all for now, thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Newman? Commissioner Moody? All right, if there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Dent, we got a second. Second by Commissioner Newman, all in favor?